What if I told you that the cutest thing in your garden this year could come straight from your recycling bin? In this video, we're turning plastic bottles into joyful garden decor, from pink flamingos to flower planters and beyond. Welcome to Mind Over Decoration, where we take everyday waste and give it a second life, filled with charm, color, and creativity. You'll find every idea broken down in the timestamps. Feel free to jump to what you love most. And if anything sparks a question or a smile, drop it in the comments. And before we begin, just know, maybe to you, I'm just another face on a screen. But behind this content, there's a real story, and a real family. This isn't just a video. It's a piece of my heart. Every like, every comment, every subscribe, it truly matters. When you hit that subscribe button, you're not just helping a creator grow. You're helping a dream stay alive. You're giving a small family hope, one click at a time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing me. It begins with a smile, perhaps small, perhaps sudden, when your eyes meet a line of flamingos dancing in the breeze. Here, in a modest backyard kissed by butterflies and the light of early sun, something magical has bloomed. Not from exotic seeds or expensive ornaments, but from bottles once discarded, painted pink, curved with care, and reborn as a flock of whimsical flamingo friends. Each one holds a different mood, the tall one standing proud beside lavender sprigs, a shorter one tilting curiously near the daisies. There's a quiet joy in how they gather, not to impress, but to belong. Their plastic bodies glint gently in daylight, casting soft shadows on the stone path below, as if they've always been a part of this garden story. If you look closely, you'll notice the craftsmanship is simple: a soda bottle for the body, a long curved neck formed from pipe or tubing, a dab of black paint for the beak. Nothing complex. Yet, when arranged together with wildflowers, grasses, and a little patience, they become something far greater than the sum of their parts. Near the pond, their mirrored reflections seem to ripple with laughter. Monarch butterflies swirl overhead like confetti, landing lightly on plastic wings that never needed to fly to be free. It's a gentle reminder, beauty doesn't always grow from what we plant. Sometimes, it arrives when we give something, or someone, a second chance. So if you have a bottle and a bit of pink paint, you're already halfway there. Let your own flamingo take shape, and let it wade proudly into your garden, where color is kindness, and trash, with a touch of love, becomes wonder. It begins with a breeze, the kind that barely moves the trees but makes the fish come alive. Above a garden bed in full bloom, a school of playful fish glides through the air. Not real fish, of course, but bottles, transformed into bright, smiling sea creatures. Orange, yellow, blue, green. Their bodies shimmer with hand-painted scales. Their eyes are wide with wonder. And sprouting from their backs? Trails of flowering vines, ferns, or air plants that mimic the drift of underwater foliage. They're not just decoration. They're delight in motion. Whether they hang gently above a staircase of herb pots or line up against a sunlit brick wall, these fish planters tell a story. One of simplicity and joy. One where discarded plastic becomes the most charming element in your entire garden. And the process? Easier than you might expect. Cut your bottle, flip the shape, add fins, and paint on a little personality. A bit of string, a plant, a place to hang, and suddenly, they're swimming. In one garden, they hover above rosemary and basil, adding color where green once dominated. In another, they stretch in perfect formation along a wall, fuchsia and lobelia trailing like underwater blossoms. Somewhere else, they hang in an archway, catching morning light like stained glass. What makes them so memorable isn't just their color, it's their character. Every little fish has a face, a smile, a plant, a home. And in gardens like these, you don't just grow flowers. You grow stories. You build color into the air. You invite joy to linger, like laughter between friends. So if your walls feel too plain or your pergola too empty, let these bottle fish swim in. Let them remind you that creativity doesn't come from what you buy, it comes from what you see, what you try, and how much love you give to the smallest of things. Some garden moments whisper instead of shout. Along the soft curves of a flower bed, between tulips just beginning to open and snapdragons reaching for the morning sun, a pair of little bunnies appear, wide-eyed, pink-eared, and quietly joyful. They don't hop or twitch or move. And yet, somehow, they bring the whole garden to life. Each bunny is made from a plastic bottle or jug, upcycled with a touch of paint, a hand-cut ear, and a personality all its own. One has a heart-shaped nose. Another, whiskers drawn with care. Their expressions are simple and sincere, like something from a storybook you loved as a child. And maybe that's the charm. In one garden, they're tucked beside the daffodils. In another, they line a winding path like soft lanterns, glowing from within at dusk. Their ears catch the late light just right, making it seem like they're listening to the wind or to the tiny laughter of bees among blossoms. This DIY project doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for presence. For attention to the little things, how a recycled bottle becomes a companion, how a path becomes a story when something innocent waits to greet you at the bend. Try it for yourself, reuse what you have, lean into play, and let each bottle bunny take its own shape. Let the ears be too big, the smile a little crooked. That's what makes them feel alive. Because gardens aren't just made of soil and sunlight, they're made of imagination. And sometimes, all it takes is a pair of pink ears and a friendly face to remind us how sweet and simple beauty can be. Beneath the wooden beams of a humble pergola, a garden begins to sing, not with wind chimes or birdsong, but with the quiet poetry of plastic bottles reborn. Once cast aside, these soda containers now hang proudly overhead, transformed into delicate chandeliers of blooming joy. Sunlight pours through the vines and dapples each bottle, where marigolds, petunias, and white trailing verbena spill over the edges like a midsummer dream. The first time you try this, it feels almost too simple to be beautiful. But that's the charm. Take a large soda bottle, cut it gently to cradle soil, add a few drainage holes, and let your hands choose the colors of nature to fill it. The rustic rope handles, twine or jute, add that countryside softness, especially when they sway ever so slightly in the afternoon breeze. In one bottle, tiny tassels dangle like festive earrings, catching the light like laughter caught in midair. When viewed from beneath, it's not just recycling, it's art. An overhead shot reveals the full composition, colorful bottle blooms suspended at playful heights, dancing amidst morning glory vines. It becomes a canopy of upcycled delight, inviting butterflies, bees, and admiring eyes. And the beauty of this project? It doesn't demand perfection. You can mix colors, repurpose different sizes, and use what you already have. Hang them under your patio roof, on a simple pergola, or even from balcony hooks. Every detail, every flower and every bottle, is yours to imagine. In the quiet rhythm of watering and pruning, this cheerful bottle garden becomes more than a DIY project. It becomes a reminder that even the smallest things, when given care and light, can bloom into something magical. There's something about the sight of a pink piglet that softens even the hardest day. Now imagine a whole lane of them, made lovingly from old plastic bottles, each one blooming with a crown of marigolds, daisies, and zinnias. Under the warm glow of the afternoon sun, these upcycled piggies parade across the lawn, their painted smiles turning the mundane into something utterly magical. It's garden decor, yes, but it's also a quiet rebellion against waste, a creative protest made joyful and endearing. Look closer, and you'll notice each piggy planter tells its own story. Some have curled little tails made from twisted bottle strips, others have button noses formed from clever bottle cap repurposing. The eyes, whether painted or glued, bring a sense of personality, turning every bottle into a cheerful garden companion. Nestled in soft, living grass, they're not just containers. They're characters. Tiny four-legged pots of color and laughter. Above them, like a celebration overhead, hang rows of plastic bottle planters, sliced and strung from natural twine, shaped into blooming baskets. The flowers spill over the rims in soft waves of purple and white, adding a dreamy vertical accent that balances the playful parade below. Together, the scene feels like a garden fairy tale, where animals bloom, flowers dangle from the sky, and plastic waste becomes poetry. And that's the beauty of it, anyone can make this. With a bit of cutting, a splash of pastel paint, and the courage to create something just a little bit silly, your backyard can become a whimsical retreat. Don't overthink it. Let your imagination play, and let the piggies lead the way. In the hush of a midsummer morning, where the dew hasn't quite released its grip from the clover and lavender leaves, a little scene of wonder quietly unfolds beneath the garden blooms. If you kneel down and look closer, right there, under the marigolds, beside the snapdragons, you might just meet a curious gaze peering out from a patch of petals. Crafted from old plastic bottles and a bit of whimsy, these hedgehogs aren't just garden decor, they're characters. Each one bears its own expression, made from painted bottle caps and soft wooden noses. Their backs, a patchwork of mosaic shards in jewel-toned hues, catch the light like armor made of joy. Some wear spikes of cut plastic dipped in glitter, others shimmer in tessellated mirror tiles. And all of them, regardless of color or size, peek from the foliage as if mid-adventure. It's hard not to smile when they appear. Maybe that's the quiet magic of using something as humble as a discarded soda bottle and transforming it into something that sparks joy. These creatures are surprisingly easy to make. You'll need a few bottle bottoms, some corks or caps for snouts and ears, and paint or tiles for their spines. Once you assemble them, hot glue working wonders, you'll find your garden whispering a bit more character into the breeze. Nestle them near logs. Let them peek from under the basil. Place a few among the thyme or rosemary. Children love them. Neighbors ask about them. And perhaps most importantly, they remind us that charm doesn't come from money spent, but from creativity shared with the soil and sun. Because sometimes, it's the smallest things, like a hedgehog made from yesterday's bottle, that quietly brighten a corner of the world. There's a certain kind of joy that sneaks up on you, quiet, unexpected, and completely handmade. Maybe it begins with a patch of sun on the patio floor, or a breeze that sets a line of plastic fish twirling gently above the garden. But today, it starts here, in a backyard corner where repurposed bottles have become pets with painted eyes and playful personalities. At a glance, it feels like a child's dream stitched into reality, bright blue bottle cats winking beside lemon yellow pups, their rounded bellies blooming with plump succulents and trailing vines. Each one wears a grin, drawn in black paint with the kind of care that only comes from someone who's creating for the love of it. You can tell these aren't store-bought. They carry the warm fingerprints of imagination. Just beyond the patio line, a green kitten with whiskers and googly eyes sits beside a cherry-red dog with floppy gray ears, both nestled among white blossoms like they belong in a fairy tale garden. The details are wonderfully simple: bottle caps for noses, felt or foam for ears, and flowers in place of fur. It's the kind of design anyone can try. Just a few bottles, a brush, and the will to smile while you make something odd and cheerful. But it doesn't stop there. On a brick wall behind them, bottle fish with fin-cut tails and lush green insides swim across the surface, suspended by string like an aquarium in the air. Beneath them, a row of seated bottle critters gazes upward, almost as if they're watching a show. It's storytelling through shapes and shadows, sunlight, and smiles. And in one final flourish, a little garden path flanked with smooth pebbles leads you through a space where cats, dogs, and fish from Bottleland all live in harmony, where flowers bloom and laughter lingers. This isn't just upcycling. It's memory making. It's creativity that leaves a footprint softer than stone, but bright enough to follow. So if your hands are idle, and your recycling bin is full, perhaps this is your sign. A few bottles. a few paints, and a patch of sunlight. That's all you need to bring your own garden of bottle pets to life. In a corner where laughter lives quietly among the leaves, two green frogs stand watch, not the kind that hop, but the kind you make with your hands and a few bottles no one wanted. Their wide eyes gleam with curiosity, and their goofy smiles feel like a wave of joy you didn't know you needed. They're not just decorations, they're cheerful guardians of the garden, standing proudly beneath a curtain of green bottle planters that burst with thyme, mint, basil, and an occasional bloom of lavender. Each frog is made from a simple plastic bottle, but transformed with intention. Painted in glossy greens, with googly eyes glued on, arms stretched in welcome, they become something magical. The idea isn't perfection, it's delight. They're positioned near the base of a vertical wall garden, rows upon rows of horizontally mounted green bottles, each one holding a small miracle of growth. A tiny ecosystem climbs upward from recycled waste, structured and tidy, but never cold. One scene captures the frogs flanking a trellis, their bright bodies lit by the sun, watching as ivy dances upward and purple clematis peeks through like garden confetti. Elsewhere, they're nestled in a parade of cheerful cousins, blue, yellow, bottle green, forming a whole frog family under a canopy of greenery. And right against a brick wall, a lush layout of bottle planters spills color in both foliage and flower, framed at either end by frog mascots like bookends to a happy story. What you see here isn't complicated, it's playful, practical, and rooted in care. It tells us something we often forget: you don't need expensive tools or materials to build something memorable. Just imagination, a splash of paint, and a reason to smile. Maybe the next time you finish a bottle of soda, you'll see a frog waiting to be born, ready to greet someone at the edge of your own little green world. There's a kind of laughter only nature understands, the rustle of thyme leaves as a breeze passes through, the shimmer of petals when sunlight winks at them, and perhaps, just perhaps, the quiet delight of garden mice made from discarded plastic bottles coming together for a whimsical feast. In this enchanted little scene, repurposed trash becomes a tale, and the garden turns into a storybook. One by one, the mice appear, painted in soft grays, earthy browns, and speckled greens, each fashioned from small plastic bottles with cork ears and delicate wire whiskers. Nestled between tufts of rosemary and bright clusters of oregano, they look up with bright button eyes, as though curious about the sunlight or the scent of something savory in the air. At the edge of the planter, a mouse cradles a perfect triangle of yellow cheese, lovingly shaped from clay and slightly oversized for its tiny paws. Its wide eyes seem proud of the find. Another peeks out from behind a marigold bloom, half hidden by petals, almost as if bashfully inviting us to join their gathering. These aren't just crafts, They're characters born from imagination and the will to reuse what the world discards. Their stage? A round herb planter ringed with moss and filled with basil and thyme. A green bottle cap becomes a miniature platform for one adventurous mouse, its feet steady on the ridges, holding a transparent green clover made from melted plastic bits, charming, clever, and unbelievably cute. This garden tale is a reminder that creativity doesn't bloom from expensive tools or complicated plans. It comes from noticing what's already in your hands. An empty bottle, a cork, a touch of clay, and the willingness to play. These mice weren't bought, they were dreamed. And your garden can dream too. Try one. Place it by your lavender. Let it smile at passers-by. And let your space whisper that even trash can carry joy when touched with a little warmth and a whole lot of heart. There's a particular kind of silence that hovers over a backyard pond at golden hour. Not empty, not still, just respectful. The light settles softly on lily pads, casting a golden hush over the water's surface. And then you see them, an unexpected little parade gliding past the cattails and floating lotus flowers. At first glance, they resemble classic bath toys. But lean in closer, and you'll notice the clever handiwork. Each duck is lovingly shaped from plastic bottles, their round heads repurposed from cut bottlenecks, and their vibrant beaks fashioned from orange plastic caps. It's not perfection that makes them special, it's personality. Some have crooked eyes, others lean slightly to one side, but together, they form a story, a family, bobbing calmly through their pond kingdom. One large duck leads the way, perhaps the matriarch, followed by three smaller ducklings made from mini bottles, their reflections trailing like gentle echoes in the water. They drift through floating gardens of water lettuce and lotus, moving with the current, unhurried and serene. A subtle giggle may escape from a visitor crouching near the water's edge, surprised and charmed by these delightful creatures nestled among the reeds. This is what DIY can be, not merely a project, but a way of seeing differently. What once was trash, clear bottles, mismatched lids, becomes part of a living scene, one that moves with the wind and invites a second glance. Children will love spotting the little bottle ducks hiding behind lily pads. Adults may pause longer, reminded of something simple and good. And all it takes is a few salvaged bottles, a pair of scissors, and a bit of glue and imagination. The rest, shade, pond, peace, nature already provides. Maybe that's the magic of it, creating something sweet and silly, just to make a quiet moment even more beautiful. Sometimes, all it takes to breathe life into a tired backyard is a little paint, a bit of whimsy, and a love for the unexpected. Somewhere between clever and charming, these DIY penguin bottle figures waddle into the garden like guests arriving for a secret party. With soda bottles dressed in black and white tuxedo coats, they perch cheerfully in flower beds, Their tiny bottle cap hats slightly askew as if caught mid-laughter on a breezy afternoon. One sits proudly among white daisies, beak pointed toward the sun. Their button eyes seem to follow you with gentle curiosity, while the light gleams softly off their rounded bellies. Nearby, another penguin stands beside a stone path edged with blue wildflowers, its hand-painted beak opening slightly, as if it has something important to say about how beautiful this garden has become. You don't need expensive materials or rare skills, just a few clean plastic bottles, black and white acrylic paint, some orange craft paper for the beak, and imagination as your guide. Caps from fizzy drinks become playful hats, each with a different color and character. These small differences give each penguin its own personality, the cheerful one, the shy one, the one who always seems to be running late. In one corner, even the snow doesn't stop them. A cluster of penguin bottles encircles a bed of white blooms, their shiny finishes catching winter's light like polished glass. The scene could belong in a children's book, but here it is, quietly real in your own backyard. Whether you make 1 or 20, these little bottle guests bring smiles that last longer than the season. It's not just recycling, it's storytelling. Let your garden be a place where penguins gather, not because they belong there, but because you made it so. In a patch of garden where laughter and butterflies linger, there stands a quiet sentinel made from what most would throw away. With bright bottle cap eyes wide as moons and feathers clipped from repurposed plastic, this handcrafted owl keeps gentle watch over the blooms it calls home. You'll find him nestled by marigolds, their warm yellows and fiery oranges glowing like embers in the morning sun. Beside him, garden tools rest, evidence of someone who tends, not just creates. Every little detail on the owl's body, from his layered blue feathers to the beak cut from a soda cap, tells a tale of care, patience, and the magic of transformation. One glance at his round face, whether transparent and elegant like glass or cheerfully cartoonish with oversized eyes, and children pause. Grown-ups smile. And the zinnias seem to dance a little taller. It's as if the owl lends courage to the petals around him, reminding them to stand bright even when the world is windy. Crafting a guardian like this doesn't require skill as much as it does heart. An old water bottle, a few colored scraps, maybe some glue and scissors, and the willingness to see potential where others see trash. Add your own twist, a tiny scarf made from cloth scrap, wings shaped like garden trowels, or perch him near handmade seed signs fluttering in the breeze. What begins as a simple afternoon craft can become the soul of your garden, a wise, whimsical keeper who watches in silence, but speaks volumes through charm. Let him stand among your herbs and flowers, and he'll gently remind you, in every forgotten bottle, there's a second life waiting to bloom. In one quiet corner of a blooming backyard, something out of this world has landed, or rather, clung with tiny paws to a wooden post. A squirrel in a silver spacesuit, its helmet shimmering beneath the sun, grips the timber as if ready to launch or report back to its intergalactic nut supply base. But here on Earth, it brings a smile instead. Crafted from nothing more than discarded plastic bottles, this cosmic critter is a reminder that imagination doesn't need new materials, just new eyes. Its bottle tail spirals behind it like a comet's trail, made from carefully cut and curled strips of clear plastic. A second bottle forms its rounded helmet, trimmed to a jagged line like cartoonish bangs, lending the squirrel an oddly charming seriousness as it peers out from behind the ivy. It's perched just above a bed of white daisies, where nature meets nonsense in the best way. Ivy leaves curl toward it curiously, as if unsure whether this strange creature belongs among them, or is just visiting from the stars. And yet, despite the surreal humor, the sculpture feels like it belongs, nestled in the slow serenity of a handmade garden. Elsewhere nearby, bumblebees buzz, dragonflies twirl on copper wire, and a snail seems to pause in contemplation of its new shiny neighbor. Together, they create a world that feels both familiar and gently fantastical, a backyard where anything is possible if you're willing to try. So if you've got an old bottle, a splash of paint, and a curious heart, let this be your sign. Build your own cosmic critter. Let your garden be strange, funny, and beautiful, because sometimes, the most grounding things are the ones that float just a little outside reality. In one sunny corner of a backyard, where laughter of daisies blends with the rustle of time, a quiet parade begins. But these aren't elephants on the move, they're still and steady guardians of the garden. Crafted from old plastic bottles and touched by imagination, each elephant stands proud with a lifted trunk, not trumpeting, but watering. They release a slow rhythm of droplets, feeding the garden one breath at a time. Their formation is not accidental. On a wooden ledge softened by moss and surrounded by geraniums and petunias, a line of them watches over the soil. Some are painted in soft pastels, green like spearmint, pink like sunrise, blue like early spring sky. Others shimmer in repurposed glass-like clarity, their colorful ears made from folded caps or flower-patterned cutouts. It's whimsical, yes, but also profoundly practical. Each trunk becomes a slow-release watering spout, perfect for herbs that need just enough, not too much. Step a little closer and you'll see the charm in the details. One elephant, with a playful grin and wide eyes, hovers gently over a basil patch. Droplets gather at the edge of its nose and fall, plink, onto the leaves like tiny blessings. No pumps. No noise. Just gravity and design in harmony. Mounted along fences or hung beneath shaded eaves, these elephants bring a spark of joy to even the simplest backyard plot. And they remind us, DIY doesn't always have to be raw or rugged. It can be joyful, funny, even tender. So before you toss another bottle away, ask yourself, could it become a watering elephant? You don't need power tools. Just paint, a little patience, and a garden that welcomes gentle invention. The beauty lies not in how perfect the curve of the trunk is, but in how lovingly it drips life into your soil. There's something disarmingly tender about stumbling upon a bottle farm tucked between marigolds and mint. Not a farm for crops or cattle, but a fantastical zoo, crafted from things most would toss away. Here, old plastic bottles don't just get recycled, they come back to life. They become goats with spiral-painted horns, ducks with bright beaks waddling across gravel, sleepy-eyed owls perched between basil pots, and shy hedgehogs nestled in mulch with bottle-cap noses and wooden toothpick spines. Look closely at the garden path. You'll spot a green glass goat standing tall, its legs made from coiled wire springs, and its cheerful face hand-painted with care. Around its hooves, a parade of bottle ducks marches with orange caps for feet, their eyes wide with cartoonish charm. Some peek into the tiny pond, while others cluster near a flowering zinnia as if mid-conversation. And under the shade of a tomato vine trellis, 3 hedgehogs huddle. Their rounded bodies are just soda bottles, their backs a forest of reclaimed sticks and straw. They don't move, but somehow you still believe they could. On the shelf beneath the rustic bottle farm sign, every creature is posed like a gallery of giggles. Pink pigs with curly tails, yellow tabby cats, even a bunny with cotton ears fashioned from old pipe cleaners. It's not just adorable. It's imaginative, resourceful, and refreshingly joyful. Each bottle holds a memory of what it was and a promise of what it could become. And that's the heart of this entire garden, a celebration of creativity over consumption, of fun over fuss. If you've ever held an empty bottle and wondered what next, this is your answer. So gather what you have. Let your hands wander and your ideas be silly. This little backyard zoo began with scraps and a smile, and yours could, too. And just like that, a pile of plastic bottles became something far more meaningful, a garden that smiles back at you. If even one idea made you look at trash a little differently, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Got a question? Want to share your version? I'm here, and I read everything. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to keep this creative space blooming. Until next time, keep making magic from the ordinary.